So we are starting the webinar now. Good afternoon to all of you. Today, on behalf of Annikli Ammal Research Institute, AARI, I welcome you all to this Biosciences webinar session 1. AARI is a research institute based from Chennai. We are happy and proud to say that it's an exclusive research institute established for various algal research works. ARI has its own cultural collection of several algal species and bacteria. These are few from our own cultural collection, and this is our family. We have our board of directors with administrative officers and the esteemed research team. And now here I am Vinod Kumar, who is working as a scientific officer in ARI, who is conducting this seminar, conducting this webinar. So we have our own culture collection, and these are the few from our culture collection. And we have our own well-established lab for molecular biology incubation and for analytical purpose. ERI is pleased to provide various services ranging from basic microbiological and algal work, and also molecular biology work, and some analytical works. We also provide training for exams like NET and SET, and help in thesis writing and article publication. Periodically, we also conduct various training programs for the students. As we have specialties to carry on these works, and we are expecting to further extend our services more in future. So this is all about our ARI research group. Without further delaying, we'll get into today's session. The topic of this first webinar is preparedness and potential to deal with a pandemic like in COVID-19. Just to start with a positive hope, let's see the graph which shows the infection trajectory. If you see, the number of cases doubling for most of the countries are falling between 5 to 10 days. And this is the current trend with the graph in the above. That is the current trend. The graph at the bottom shows the trend in March. Actually, then the rate of infection seems to be higher. It took only 3 to 5 days for doubling the number of cases in most of the countries. So does that mean our infection rates are falling now? Yeah, maybe we can say yes. This may be due to the strict government measures like lockdown, curbing international travels, etc. This may be the results of that. So the thing is, we can understand that through the graph, we can understand that the infection rates, moreover, it's falling for almost all the countries. And let's see this interesting image. It shows that we are already the barriers. We have seen so many pandemics from time immemorial. COVID-19 is one such new addition. If someone asks me what is virus, I would say it's an encapsulated nucleic acid. Yeah, the DNA, RNA, and that's it. It's pretty much an opportunistic blueprint of for making more viruses. Coming to the origin, any virus or bacteria, it has to mutate before it can get into another species. Being an unstable RNA virus, corona must also have undergone some mutations to infect from bats to other intermediate hosts like pangolin, which we aren't sure about. From these, again getting mutated and at last reaching the humans now. Because it's a novel virus and humans lack residual immunity, this makes us more vulnerable. There is also conspiracy theories, as you know. One Nobel laureate has claimed that it is a weapon of biowar that actually doesn't have any scientific base so far, at least. Below here, it is a timeline of COVID-19. At least from December or January, we all must be following and witnessing how it have progressed and become a pandemic now. Before getting into further details, let's make it clear, this thing clear. COVID-19 is the name of disease actually given by WHO, World Health Organization, and SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus given by ICTV, International Committee for Taxonomy for Viruses, ICTV. Now, below are the 10 images of SARS-CoV-2. Right side is the slide from University of Hong Kong, which shows the virus affecting the human cells. Slide from NIV Pune, showing the image of coronavirus. Okay, now let's see how this SARS-CoV-2 infects us. These are the possible clinical symptoms of one who get infected with SARS-CoV-2, starting from mild fever, cough, shortness of breath, septic shock, and even multiple organ failure that ultimately makes the person to collapse in some severe cases. This image helps us understand the molecular pathology of this infection. The spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 attaches with the ACE2 receptor of human cell, angiotensin converting enzyme receptor of human cell. This is also aided by another human membrane protein called tyrosine serine membrane protease. Together, this complex get internalized and upon translating the viral genome using host machinery, it synthesizes polyprotein. Then this the lengthy polyprotein get cleaved by the protease to form many functional viral protein. Later, the replicated RNA along with these viral proteins get assembled with the help of endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi intermediate compartment, and producing several copies of viruses. When we see under electron microscope, this is actually how the virus infect the cell. This is the human cell that the color has. This is a TEM image actually. It is photoshopped using the color for differentiation. And this is the image from Brazil. At physiological level, at physiological level in organs, in this case, if we take lungs, SARS-CoV-2 virus damages the endothelium cells of alveoli, which makes impaired gas exchange and creating hypoxia, the shortness of breath. Severe damage to alveoli can cause by cytokine storm. Ultimately, if it becomes severe, lungs cannot function. So that's how it collapses humans so fast. And why this virus kills so fast? Maybe we can reason out this from two presumptions, and there are several other reasons which we don't know yet. Recently, day before yesterday or day before yesterday, there was one interesting article. It claims that it also affects our neuronal system. So that is the third point, along with diminishing ACE2 receptor, cytokine storm, and the third one is our attacking our neuronal system. And there may be some other reasons also which we have to find out yet. So let's see how diminishing ACE2 receptor becomes lethal for us. ACE receptor convert angiotensin to active form of angiotensin 1, angiotensin 2, until angiotensin 7. These are actually vasodilators and play a crucial role in regulating our blood pressure. When these receptors are bound and internalized by SARS-CoV-2 as a process of infection, it drastically reduces the number of these ACE2 receptors on the human cell surface, and these less in number produces less vasodilator. Thus, there is an unregulated blood pressure among the humans who got infected, and ultimately this leads to septic shock and finally the organ failure. Also, these ACE2 receptors have some immunomodulatory effect. By reducing the number, it leads to reduced immunomodulation and opens up way for adverse immune reactions. Now, coming to cytokine storm, sometimes the body's response to infection can go into overdrive. When SARS-CoV-2 enters the lungs, it triggers an immune response, resulting in localized inflammation. But in some patients, excessive or uncontrolled level of cytokines are released which then activate more immune cells, resulting in hyperinflammation and massive production of interleukins like interleukin 1, 6, 12, TNF alpha, everything. This can seriously harm the organ and leading to sudden collapse. Here you can see how cytokine storm is actually damaging our alveoli. Within 4 days of infection, 50% of lung tissue will get damaged. So far, our understanding is actually this. So there are several questions that still we haven't addressed, and still we have to find out. So how this SARS-CoV-2 is little. Yesterday, as I said before, we came to know that the SARS-CoV-2 is also infecting our neuronal system. So we have to still find out what are the other organs that get affected with this virus, and what are the complications that it may cause, and why the interesting thing is always the fatality rate is more in male, higher to females, and we don't know exact reason, and children are very less affected. So these are the things that we have to really research upon, and we have to come to the idea. Uh, Now we move on to see some plausible treatment targets. Targeting an unknown enemy is always difficult. It's better to have extensive studies to come up with effective treatment options. We have seen there are enormous studies within these 3 4 months as pandemic grows. Number of genome sequences, number of publications, number of research reports are also growing exponentially high. Critical protein structures like the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2, and the protease, which helps in cleaving the polyprotein of the virus. So these are the critical proteins that helps in this viral propagation, viral replication inside the human cells. So understanding and studying more of these proteins and their 3D structure are actually they actually help in designing more drugs. Nearly 7,000 partial genome sequences of SARS-CoV-2 is there in public domain already. And from India, almost 30 partial genomes are deposited so far, and 9 are from, sorry, yeah, and 9 are from NIV. Here, as you know, SARS-CoV-2 has nearly 30 kb of genomic RNA, which is positive single strand that codes for essential viral protein. And with the help of these protein structures, more effective drugs can be designed. Perhaps now we can try to understand few potential areas where drugs can be targeted. Yeah, we can design drugs which actually restrict the viral entry inside the cell. Otherwise, we can design some molecule which can inhibit the viral RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, or something which actually inhibits the protease, which helps to make functional viral protein inside the host cell, or some other molecule or some other drug for stopping the viral assembly inside the host cell, or some elements to target the viral genomic RNA so that the intactness of the genomic DNA get affected, so that the viral cannot replicate further. Or actually, the complication is the cytokine storm. It would be better if we come up with some potential drugs which actually handles this cytokine storm and which acts as a immunomodulatory, or which neutralizes this interleukin, especially interleukin 6. Now, as an exercise, if we want to examine the action of HCQ, which is actually an anti-malarial drug, as you all know, HCQ is hydroxychloroquine. And recently, before we were thinking that HCQ can be used for severe COVID-19 syndrome or HCQ, and particularly countries like India, they used hydroxychloroquine for, as a prophylaxis for COVID-19. But a couple of days before, FDA have gave a warning saying that HCQ has more adverse effect than curing COVID-19. So we have to really think of using HCQ. But as an exercise, if we want to examine what the action of HCQ on SARS-CoV-2, what do you think that HCQ can do is doing actually? So HCQ actually increases the cellular pH. It affects in making ACE2 less sensitive to SARS-CoV-2. So the viral entry is actually interfered. Then it allows more zinc inside cell that inhibits viral polymerase. And also it affects Golgi transport. So it interferes with viral assembly also. And also it is very mild immunomodulatory substance. Maybe all these are not much effective as we expect for treating COVID-19, but also it has adverse effect on the toxicity, which can cause cardiomyopathy, renal failure, retinopathy, and GI and gastrointestinal tract disturbances, and some severe diseases. So, if we weigh, there are more adverse effects on using HCQ than benefits. Now, actually, what we have done as an exercise with HCQ is a simple form of drug repurposing. It means choosing already approved drug for some other disease. Like in this case, HCQ is for it's for treating malaria. So and using and validating the already approved FDA drug for its suitability to treat COVID-19. In that case, for treating any new disease. So that is called actually repurposing of drugs. With these open questions, with these open questions, now we'll move to the area of diagnosis. It's for addressing how efficient are we in diagnosing COVID-19 disease. This is actually WHO and CDC suggested confirmatory amplicon test, and this is the region that we are actually checking, RDRP region of the virus. This is what through RT-PCR we are checking. This is partial alignment. It shows the sequence consensus of these genes among its family virus. Actually, these are the three genes that WHO recommended to test on patients. One is RDRP, next is E gene and N gene. Actually, in India, ICMR suggested to use only RDRP as a first line of information. If we are getting positive in RDRP, then again we have to go for E gene or N gene assay. After getting positive in all the three genes, then only a patient will be announced as a COVID-19 positive. So in the very first line, we are just doing RDRP PCR for the first line of confirmation. How do the test of coronavirus work? Okay. From the sample, we know the RNA is first extracted. Then it is converted to cDNA upon RT-PCR with a specific primer. In this case, it is RDRP, RNA-dependent RNA polymerase primers, along with fluorescent dye molecules. If there are amplicons, they will get detected by the fluorescence. If the fluorescent intensity goes high, it means the amplicons are getting more amplified. There are actually some shortcomings with these techniques. Like let's analyze all the tests individually and its advantages and disadvantages. Like in PCR based test, actually it is a checking the presence of genomic RNA of the virus from the samples. We know that the advantage is yearly case detection. We don't need to wait for the symptoms to get developed, and it is very much confirmatory. Still, there are false negatives. The chances of more false negatives are there, but as far as we know, RT-PCR is more sensitive than at least than serology test. But as I said, the problems are with the false negatives, and it requires actually trained technicians for handling this RT-PCR, because we have to handle the RNA, and it is highly unstable, and all the reagents involved in this RT-PCR and PCR based test are really costly. Second test is serology based test. A serology based test looks for antibody which is against the virus. If someone had infection and then they recovered, we can identify that using this test. Actually, it doesn't need technical expertise, so we can use it for population screening. It helps in studying the herd immunity, but the problem with this is late detection. After the infection, it takes 5 to 7 days for developing IgM, and then some more time for developing IgG. Another important thing is, yeah. Another important thing is usually IgG stays longer, like 3 months or 5 months, based on the infection. Here, particularly for SARS-CoV-2, we exactly don't know how long this IgG will be active, whether it will stay for 1 month or 10 days or 2 months. We exactly we don't know how long this IgG is going to give some passive immunity for us. So this is the reason that in some places like China and South Korea, we could see the reinfection. So the thing is that first we have to determine the lifetime, the half life of IgG, particularly for the SARS-CoV-2. Then only we can answer for this reinfection. So this is just coupling a PCR and serology test to get more sensible clinical relevance. If a suspect individual gets positive in PCR, and in serology, if both the IgM and IgG is negative, then it means that he's at the very early stage of infection. But if an individual gets positive in PCR as well as serology test, he is in active phase of infection. That means here his infection is at the peak stage, and he's actually developing an antibody against SARS-CoV-2. So if we couple PCR and the serology test, we get more sensible significance, clinical significance for diagnostics. And this is the same. Coming to whole genome based sequencing for diagnostics, in some countries like US, UK, this has been proposed. Here, from the samples, they go directly for whole genome sequencing. Through this, we can understand what are the viral strains present in the sample, how it spreads among community, and the source of actual source of infection, etc. And it's highly helpful in epidemiological analysis. But the problem is it is very expensive, and it demands more technicalities. Now this is very interesting topic. Can biologics be a better choice for treating COVID-19? First, what is biologics? Biologics is a drug or therapeutic agent produced from living source, or the therapeutics actually which contains living organism. Let's see two important biologics. One is convalescent plasma, which all our news medias are nowadays calling as a plasma therapy, and next one is stem cells therapy. So let's see how these two can give a better treatment option for COVID-19. Yeah, I'm happy that our institute AARI, along with some other medical college and medical hospitals, we have come up with a few reviews saying that this actually convalescent plasma and mesenchymal stem cells, these stem cells actually work for COVID-19. So the idea of plasma therapy is quite simple. If one individual gets infected with virus and he recovers from the infection, that necessarily means that he have enough immune antibodies in a system to handle the virus. And therefore, the idea is to transfer the plasma or enriched antibodies from this plasma to the patient who is otherwise cannot produce antibody in such a number to be able to recover from the infection. Now, technically, it looks very simple. The fact is, still we don't have any hard evidence from clinical trial that suggests that this can be effectively used. By giving plasma, it is going to handle the individual from infection for a short time. That's not going to confer immunity for an individual for a prolonged time. We have seen that we don't know exact the duration time of IgG's life period in our blood. So we exactly don't know how we are going to use this hyperimmune antibodies against this SARS-CoV-2. But now many of the states like Kerala, Karnataka, Delhi, they have started this plasma therapy. And now Tamil Nadu, like a few states like Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, they are waiting for the permission to start the clinical trials. And officially, there are only two clinical trials from Delhi and one from Delhi and another one from Kerala that got registered for using this plasma therapy so far. So next important biologics, which shows primarily promising results in clinical trials, is mesenchymal stem cell. Mesenchymal stem cells is a multipotent stromal cell that can differentiate into variety of cell types. These cells can be obtained from human umbilicoid blood, from otherwise from bone marrow, otherwise from adipose tissue of a healthy human being. The thing is, it has several advantages of using against COVID-19. Actually, the interesting thing is these mesenchymal stem cell, it lacks ACE2 receptor. So that is, we already know that this ACE2 receptor is the main receptor in the host which mediates the viral entry. So because this mesenchymal stem cell lacks this ACE2 receptor, it is naturally resistant against SARS-CoV-2. And being a stem cell, it has the potential to repair the damaged alveoli and make the lung function again. This also shows some immunomodulatory effect, which we have already well studied of this immunomodulatory effect. So this all put together helps in improving lung compliance. But the thing is, for both of these biologics, there is a need for long follow-up and more clinical-based evidences. So these are required for further establishing these biologics as a plausible treatment choice. And interestingly, you all must be following uh, a compound from algal source like extracellular polysaccharide uh, or some other from algal source like it can be used as a prophylaxis, or we have seen that it can be act as an antiviral thing for controlling SARS-CoV-2. So that has to be checked and validated. So now everything said and done, let's see what's happening with clinical trials by analyzing the data. The blue graph on the above at the top of the slide shows the number of clinical trials registered based on the month. We can see that from January, the number of clinical trials it's keep on increasing as the pandemic grows up. The gray graphs gives you the number of drugs at present under trials with emphasizing phase 4. Down maroon graph shows the number of clinical trials country-wise. I know you are all looking for India. Sorry, we are busy in placing orders for rapid testing kits from China, ventilators and PPE N95 from China. That's actually really not seems to be good that we haven't come up with much more research on COVID-19. Country like China could sequence and publish nearly 106 genomes ever since the outbreak came into picture, which means they absolutely worked on skill basis. They isolated RNA, synthesized DNA, went on sequencing and publishing. In India, we are not so prepared as like China or even other European countries. We are kind of in sorry state, and probably we published two samples in these 40 days actually. China have published 106 full genome sequencing I'm talking about, and India have published only, uh, so far I know, only two full genome sequences. Actually, it shows that we need to get more prepared from genomic perspective, and need to bridge this gap. Though the good news is, though we lack in capacity and infrastructure on R&D and public health, one good news is that we are extremely doing good in containing the pandemic by abiding the lockdown and social distancing. With this, let me humbly conclude my saying, by doing our part, we will get through this. I hope this was helpful, and I thank you for this wonderful opportunity which this ARI has provided us. And so this we can finish our talk. And I take this wonderful opportunity for thanking you all the participants. You all receive your e-certificate through mail. And if there are any further queries and or suggestions, you can feel free to mail us. Now we can open our discussion session. If you have any queries to be addressed, feel free to ask. If you want to mail also, you can mail. It will be addressed. Is there any? Is there any questions that has to be addressed immediately now, or shall we conclude the session? Yeah, the video will be published, so you can make use of it. And once again,
everyone can switch on your mics and you can ask your questions. Any queries?
Yeah, you can switch on your mics and you can ask any. If you want to discuss, you can feel free to.
And the name of the participants is needed because less number of participants has participated from the registered participants, and many of the participant names are the mobile names. So kindly send your names. You can do it private chat also, no issues.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello. Can you tell me your name?
Yeah, my name is Mahesh, calling from Kerala. I'm working in Eureka Hopes Limited.
Hello. Hi, Mahesh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And it's a very wonderful section, and we know only the peripheral about the COVID-19. In depth, your PPT is very helpful for me and my colleague also, and Subramani also is there. I think so in the lesson. Okay, it's very helpful.
Thank you.
It's very helpful. And one small doubt I have, the thing as like HIV virus, it have a lot of different types of COVID is there, or is one COVID is entire world? It is.
No, actually, that's what we have to study. That's the reason that mainly we should develop more capacity in genomic perspective for identifying for addressing all these questions. But based on our knowledge, last week we understood that there are nearly 30 types of SARS-CoV-2 alone. 30 types of SARS-CoV-2 alone. It got spread all over the world. So earlier from China, we understood that there were two different strains that have infected the Europe and USA. But now we understood. But now we, with more sophisticated study, we understood that there are 30 different type of strains. But still, I have doubt. There may be so many strains that we missed to validate. So we missed to identify. So as far as we know, there are 30 different type of strains.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Is there any other queries?
Mr. Vinod?
Hello.
Hello. There is another
Yeah.
question. How to treat each type of stem therapy treatment?
How to
Treat with a type of stem therapy treatment. It's from Dr. Suganya. How to treat which type of stem therapy for treatment like
how
that?
to use this stem therapy
Yeah,
for treating
something like that.
COVID-19.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. As I told, there are different kind of stem cells. It is not only one particular cell. So this particular stem cell called mesenchyma stem cell, which is from mesoderm. Actually, it differentiates into mesoderm easily and actually endothelial membrane. So that is why it is called mesenchyma stem cell. So with these mesenchyma stem cell, we can. It is found that it can be used against COVID-19 disease. So we can use that. So still there are so many research going on, and it is in clinical trial phases. And in clinical trial, we understood that it has shown some promising results. So the idea is after in 1 or 2 months, we will be getting all the data about this stem cell therapy against COVID-19. So after getting the clinical validation, we can really go for the practice. Now only clinical trials are going on.
And another question from Patil: why in children it is less infectious?
That's what, see, all these questions are open questions. So for addressing these questions, we have to improve our genomic capabilities. So that's what my entire PPT was telling, that we still need to develop our capacity in genomic perspective. These are still, we have to answer this. The entire world is looking upon research community for addressing these questions. We don't know. We only have hypothesis. We really don't know the answer. Whatever we can do is we can hypothesis. It can be there or it cannot be there. It's just a presumption that we can answer. So if you ask my opinion, why the children are not getting easily affected on the less infection rate among children, it is just my opinion, but it has to be validated. My opinion on that is maybe they all are recently vaccinated for some other diseases, some other viruses. So that may be giving them cross immunity, one. And second, they have more stem cells, more regenerative cells comparing to grown-up adults. So that may be effectively fighting against SARS-CoV-2. So we don't know. We have to validate all these things. This is the hypothesis, that this is my opinion that I can say, but still we need more research for answering this question exactly. I hope I cleared your answer. Is there any?
Next question is like, sir, what do you mean by symptomatic and non-symptomatic patients?
What do you mean by?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's what. In some of the patient, it depends upon the patient's the body condition, the immune activity, and their health condition, other comorbidities, everything. So in some patients, we could see that SARS-CoV-2 actually induces actually induces hyper inflammatory responses, and thus creating cytokine storm. In some patients, we see that it gives only mild symptoms and it leaves on, and it fails to activate the hyper-inflammatory response in the with few individuals. So
yes, sir. That means only the mild symptoms. That is a symptomatic patient. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Sorry.
Mild symptoms, when it is noticed, then it is said a symptomatic patient. That's question?
My symptoms? No. No.
Like mild.
Mild,
Okay.
MILD.
Okay.
Ha.
Okay. So these are the terms that we can use it. But see, mild symptoms can also be called as a symptomatic only. Asymptomatic is
Okay,
whether
okay,
the
ha.
individual will not at all know that they are having SARS-CoV-2 in their they are infected with SARS-CoV-2. So that is actually literally that means actually in asymptomatic. They must have infected with SARS-CoV-2, but they won't be having any clinical symptoms. Clinical symptoms, it means the outcome, the outside we could recognize through our other diagnostic material. So that kind of symptoms will not get developed with those individuals. They are called asymptomatic individuals.
Okay, sir. Thank. This is Dr. Shailendra from Pune.
Oh, hello,
Pune.
sir. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your
Thank you.
participation. Thank you.
Sunat,
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
This is Maheshwari from Chennai.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Yes, sir, your presentation is so good and so informative, and this is my first webinar to attend so far.
Okay.
And I would like to ask my basic doubt.
Please, ma'am.
So it was a saying like this virus is not from nature and it is made synthetic, and it was designed so to affect all the humankind. And it was I read somewhere. So what is your opinion regarding this? Is it like purely made intentively spread as a pandemic in order to affect entire humankind? And what will be the end? Because to my knowledge, this much of adverse pandemic I never witnessed before, and how it will come into an end? This was my basic doubt, sir.
Very wonderful question, ma'am. Actually, the thing is that there are two schools of thought. One is saying that it is lab made and it is a weapon of biowar from some other country. We don't know from which country, but that is the claim of one group. And another one group is saying that no, it is a naturally mutated virus and it got mutated and so it becomes so virulent. That is the idea of another one group. The thing is, the idea of the second group, they claim that it is from natural source. They have some scientific basis, and for the first group which claim it as a bio weapon, they have some hypothesis. They don't have any scientific base. They have hypothesis. Yeah, that can be validated, that can be checked. But right now we don't have any scientific base to claim that it is a bio weapon. So we.
Yes, but the statement was from a very good scientist. He was the one. When it is from the words of the one who already do a lot of research in the particular field, and he himself saying like this, no. So it obviously
that's
made like.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you complete, please.
That's what it obvious like even though we already know like this was like every coin has a two sides, so everyone used to say this and someone will say that, or whatever the end of the days we are having this virus right now, but still whether it is we don't know like where it is come from, but still I am worrying like how it will be end, because we educated people, we know what is how we can do and what we can, at least by knowledge purpose we can get aware of like this and all, getting updated from. But what about the common people and how they will be get back to their business, and how this will end, sir? I'm really worried about the climax of this pandemic.
There are actually, I understood, ma'am. Actually, I understood there are three separate part in your question. Actually, one is the origin of virus. So first, let me complete that discussion. So that's what. Let him be a Nobel laureate. Let him be a great scientist. He have all the freedom to hypothesis his idea. So that is only hypothesis. Yeah, that is only hypothesis out of his entire experience, research experience, everything. I have read his speech. He was telling that it must be a synthetic lab made. But the thing is, where is the support? Where is the proof? What he have done to prove it? What is the scientific validation of his statement? So that is not has been done, no. So maybe for any, I don't know the reason, but that have not been done yet. So far, whatever we have understood from that knowledge, we can say that okay, this is something from nature. And there is also chances, there is also views that it can be, it could be a, bioweapon. So that is there, but we'll wait for it. We'll wait for some more scientific validation. So once we get everything, we can come to one conclusion. But so far, up to our knowledge, up to the confirmatory scientific knowledge, we know that it is a natural virus. So there may be some other chances also that we have to validate further. So that is the
Fine,
answer
sir.
for this question. Yeah, second part
One
is,
last question, sir. Yeah, okay, you complete, sir. You complete.
yes, ma'am. Those the
Second.
second part is, I think, about the community.
Yes.
Community spread and public health. You were very concerned about the public health. So
Yes.
that's the problem, actually. That's a problem. So we should not stigmatize that. Sometimes what we are seeing in the news, people are getting stigmatized. It is not something like some other disease, or some HIV or something like that. So it easily gets spread through aerosol. So anyone can get infected with the SARS-CoV-2. So how to educate the people? That is more headache for the policymakers and administrators. So that we have to do. But one interesting thing is that we should not underestimate our Indian community. Actually, comparing to another, even to comparing with developed countries, our Indian community are really reacting very so far
Yeah,
really reacting
accept
very
it.
good, and they are abiding. Yeah, that's what my last slide also I discussed. So they are
Yes.
really abiding very good, and that is only option that
Yes.
we are left with. We don't have very good research capability,
Yeah.
infrastructure capability. But one thing we have is a good citizens, that they are abiding to the rules and regulations,
Yes.
abiding the lockdown, so that they are controlling the spread of this virus. So still, public education is required, community welfare, community works, more public health related works are required. Maybe more integrated medical approach would be helpful, like more cleanliness, or having some good nutritious food, or if some mild symptoms have been observed, immediately going to the healthcare providers for getting them checked. So these kind of more public awareness has to be created for controlling this pandemic, I guess.
Yes, sir. Thank
Is
you. And
there,
one last
you were
question.
you were you were asking some more question, ma'am?
One last question. I'm sorry
Yes,
for
ma'am.
this.
Please. Yeah, no, no,
So
no, no,
now,
no, no.
right,
Please.
right now, I'm witnessing like as though it was started from China and they are reverted back to their normal life, and it's been like, but the US affected very badly.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
what will be the ending point, sir? So what do you think, like how it will end? So as though it was started, but they reverted back to their work. But
Understood.
all of us are locked down. But still,
Understood.
how it will be required situation in India
Understood.
and also.
So actually, by reading the epidemiologist predictions, I see that there for any epidemiology there is a starting point, there is a peak, active stage, and it will
Yes,
keep on. Yeah, then again it will fall down. So
exactly.
China has started. Yeah, China has started so early, and it touched the peak, and it is falling now. The cases are falling
Fine.
now. And America is
Okay.
in very active form, and even in India also in very active form. As you see from France and Italy,
Yeah.
they were in the peak, and now
Yes.
the cases are declining. So now the cases are
Okay.
declining. I can share you some one of the predictive model that says that for India, maybe
Yes.
around the end of May, we will be having nearly more than 95% of case reduction as of now. So those are the predictions that we can say. So that is from Singapore, National University of Singapore. So they have predicted that for each and every country and for entire world. So what would be the ending date, and what would be the they are tracking the epidemiology, and they are just making some prediction. So that is let that be. That is the prediction. And based on my biological knowledge, biological science, we can discuss that one thing, how will this end? So this can be addressed through 2 points. One is either the virus has to lose its viability of
Yeah.
infection. So one thing
Yeah.
is that, so we don't know, being an RNA virus, There are chances that it may get several mutations, and it may loosen up its viability for infecting the humans. So that is
Yes.
the chances. That is the chances there. And another one thing is that developing herd immunity among the communities, among the countries. So if we develop herd immunity, maybe we get more immune people for this particular viruses, so the spread will be contained.
So,
So,
what is a
yes,
herd
so these
immunity?
are
I'm
the,
hearing for the first time, sir. What's herd immunity? Like as a group of person who recover from the diseases can develop their own immunity. Am I right?
yeah, correct, exactly. That is herd immunity.
Okay.
So this kind
Thank
of
you so
herd
much.
immunity can actually control. So these are through biological perspective I can answer. So these are the two biological perspectives that the disease can end up. There is some prediction model also.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There is one more question.
Yeah, thank
Sir,
you, ma'am.
does algae is useful to kill coronavirus?
Sorry, sir.
Does algae is useful to kill coronavirus?
No, so far we don't have any valid scientific basics for algae killing SARS-CoV-2, but we have evidence for antiviral property of from extracellular polysaccharide and from other algae that have antiviral property against some other viruses that have been studied already. But for SARS-CoV-2, but for particularly for this virus, SARS-CoV-2, we don't have any paper, any research work, or any clinical trials so far. So for this SARS-CoV-2, we have to check. We have to check and see. But we know this extracellular polysaccharides and some other components from algae. They have exhibited already some antiviral properties. We have known that. That has to be checked against SARS-CoV-2.
What is the percentage of infection reverting back as now reported in China?
Sorry, sir. Can you please bit louder?
What is the percentage of infection reverting back as of now in China?
Reverting back, see, that is entirely a debatable question. Whether this virus can, see, this disease can revert back. So that I'll say no. Actually, see, this is my hypothesis again. This is my opinion again. So we should be very careful whether this virus can revert back, or you mean to say with one single individual who get infected with the virus already, or he is getting again the same infection again. So it means that then I'm very doubtful about it. So if you mean the second wave means once the wave has come up and it has gone down, and again the second wave of infection, it could be possible. So whoever is not infected in the first wave, they can get infected in the second wave. So second wave of infection, that could be possible. So that's why more serological study and more studying about anti-SARS-CoV-2 antibodies in the form of IgG, IgM. So that could help to answer more of these kind of questions. So I'm very doubtful about this reinfection or redirection.
So the next question is our country reached stage 3 or not?
Stage 3 or not. So see, now you cannot call it like we cannot entirely say that India has gone into stage 3 or something like that, because each district, each state, everyone have locked down their borders. So there may be hotspots. So you're claiming the entire country went to stage 2 or stage 3. That is not sensible enough. So there may be some hotspots. In the hotspots, there may be chances that they may move to stage 2. So there are chances like that. So we cannot say that the entire country have moved to. There are some other interesting to know that there are some other states and some other districts which have no single COVID-19 cases. So it depends upon which area you are talking about.
So another question is pangolins animal 99% matched with this virus. Can we do vaccines out of that? Ramya.
What? Can you
Pangolins animal 99% matched with this virus.
Pangolin animals?
Yes, the pangolin animals.
Yes, ma'am.
The pangolin animals, it does have. I mean, when gone through the Wikipedia, I found those animals which have showed 99% of viral DNA that matches with the COVID. So, is
No.
it any possibility for this pangolin to test for the COVID-19 and produce the backbone out of it?
No, pangolin is an anteater. So what your question is exactly pangolin? The virus which infect pangolin is
No, no.
99%.
Pangolin animals actually showed 99% match with COVID-19 virus,
No. Wait, wait.
coronavirus.
No, this is the thing I'm not getting clear. So the pangolin is a mammal. It's an animal. It's a anteater.
Yes.
Okay. So the genome of pangolin, how it is getting matched with SARS-CoV-2?
Vishwanath, let me make it clear. Actually, what he's trying to ask, the virus which is present in pangolin,
Pangolin.
which
Yeah,
matched with
that's,
COVID. Okay, that's what he wants to say.
See, that's what we are hypothesizing. No, so the virus is actually from this SARS-CoV-2 must have originated from bat actually, and after getting several mutations, then it got the ability to infect pangolin. Maybe pangolin or some other animals, we don't know exactly. So after in the pangolin, there are one or two mutations or several other mutations made this virus to infect the human beings. So what we are having at present now in circulation is almost the different strain of which infected the pangolin earlier. So it's all different strains. So as of now, among the humans also there are 30 different strains. So the person who got infected in USA, that strain is different than the person who got infected in Tamil Nadu. So there may be different chances. So that everything comes under SARS-CoV-2, but the strain may be different. They can be entirely two different strains of SARS-CoV-2. So what is with pangolin is might be a different form of SARS-CoV-2. That is an entirely different strain.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. I am hearing you. So,
sir, I'm Jonathan from Loyola College, Chennai.
Okay, hello, Jonathan.
I have a question that the China making the rapid kit test, how they are making, what is the principle behind that, how they are identifying that the particular person has a suffering from COVID-19. Can you explain that, sir?
So rapid kit is based on serology test, as I told you. You must have remembering the slide. So serology test in the blood or in the plasma, we are checking the antibody against SARS-CoV-2. So these can be through any mode of detection by using CRISPR-Cas9 or by having some antigen coated in the paper. So it is basically a paper-based test. So if you put your plasma, your DNA in the paper, by the capillary, all the serum, all the antibody, everything moves up, and it reaches the place where the antigen, where the other enzyme has got coated. So if it touches there, and if the antibody is present, then the color change would occur. So based on the color change, we can understand that there is an antibody against SARS-CoV-2. It means that this person got affected with SARS-CoV-2. So this is the basic principle of rapid test. So that is what we are getting from China. There are a lot of controversy now going on that it is not working good and everything blah blah blah. It's going on. So that we don't know. But the basic principle behind rapid test is this. It's based on the serology test.
Thank you, sir.
Another question is like, if it is a natural outbreak, why there is no death reported from animals due to COVID-19?
Reported from where?
Like animal death. Why there is no animal death due to COVID-19?
Okay. See, actually, this virus is specific to infecting human. That's the problem, no? So this virus is actually this SARS-CoV-2. It should not infect human. It was infecting only among bats. So there is some mutation. It got mutated one or two mutations got mutated, and the spike protein, S protein of the virus, it got more affinity to binding with human ACE2 receptor. So that's unfortunately that's the problem. It got the ability now to infect humans. So now it is infecting human. There may be some homology, some similarity of this human ACE2 receptor with some other animals, like say dogs or canines, some cat or some dogs. So we have found out that one paper was saying that there are chances that this virus can infect actually cat, but more research has to be done. But this is now, as of now, this SARS-CoV-2 is specific to humans. If it get mutated more, maybe there are chances that it can infect the other animals that we don't know exactly.
So another question is, what is mean by herd community therapy? Is it suitable in a big country like India?
Which therapy?
Herd immunity therapy. HERD.
See, herd immunity is not a therapy. It's herd immunity means, see, immunity, immunity means if you are getting what it's a basis for what we are doing vaccination. So that's a basic immunity. Getting immunity is the basis for basic principle for vaccine, developing vaccine. So how the vaccine works, it's by developing your own immunity against the particular virus. So herd immunity is among the community. For example, if you say that you are in Chennai, and in Chennai the population is 1 lakh, and if you say that nearly 60,000 people are already got affected, and only 40% people are not affected by the virus, and the 60% among the 60,000 people, 60% of the people, they got the virus, they infected with the virus, and they recovered from this virus. So that means they develop the immunity against this virus. Now, maybe if the second wave comes, if the SARS-CoV-2 re-enters the city Chennai, so there is less chances of people getting affected in Chennai. This means that it's a herd immunity. Herd is a community. So the community has developed an immunity in such a way that it may not be allowed to make a second wave or more further pandemic. So that's a herd immunity. Herd immunity is the immunity among the community against a particular virus. That's it. Is there any more questions?
In chat, this much question only I received. So any participant need any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, you can email us further more questions. And this video will be posted in the YouTube also, so you can visit over there. So on behalf of ARI, I thank everyone who participated, and thank you so much to Vinod who presented this seminar very well and did very good. So all the discussion session was so good, and it's almost 20 minutes it's went. So I'm so happy for that. So if when I send the certificates, we will be adding the feedback form also. And you can add if you need further. We will be like, it's a series of webinars. So in this we will be conducting various topics. So if you are interested in any topics to be dealt, you can convey us, and also you can send us the any faculty members who can be taken the same webinar. So like that you can help us and give us a feedback so that we can improve in our next sessions. So with this, we will conclude this session. Thank you once again to all. Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you so much for all.
Yeah.
Thank you. We hope we'll meet again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Ari.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks all for participating.